Welcome to the Maria Liberati Show, where food meets art, travel, and life. So, what does food mean to you? Well, join me in this week's episode as we have some money saving tips to celebrate Valentine's Day. You know, everybody wants to celebrate Valentine's Day in a special way. And we're going to discuss some ways to enjoy the holiday, but not break the bank. But first, I wanted to share with everyone this interesting study. So, if you're a cappuccino drinker or cappuccino addict like I am, you can't get enough of your cappuccino, you might want to know where you can travel to get the least expensive cappuccino and or the most expensive cappuccino. So there was a study done of the top 10 states that pay the most for a regular cappuccino on average. So the average cappuccino price in Oklahoma, wow, is $6.42. So that was the top cost of the top state, rather. For cappuccino pricing is Oklahoma, so that was $6.42. Number 2 is Hawaii, which comes in at $6.25 for a cappuccino. Then in Massachusetts, the average price for a cappuccino is $5.71. In Idaho, the average price for a cappuccino is $5.68. Then the number 5 spot is North Carolina, $5.58 for a cappuccino. In Tennessee, a cappuccino is $5.55. The number 7 spot in Pennsylvania is $5.50. In the state of Washington, that's the number 8 spot for prices of cappuccino. The average price is $5.48. California makes the number 9 spot. Hey, I would have thought California would have been the most expensive, but California is $5.46. And the 10th spot goes to New Hampshire. $5.43 is the average price for a cappuccino. So if you want to get an inexpensive cappuccino, you probably want to stay away from getting cappuccino in those states. And also, I just wanted to make a mention, if you're looking for Valentine Day gifts, you can go to getnamenecklace.com and you can find really interesting gifts, really beautiful gifts, interesting gifts that you can personalize for Valentine's Day or really any day. That's getnamenecklace.com. Stay with me for our interviews for this week. Hey, Valentine's Day is coming up, and Super Bowl also. I forgot about Super Bowl. Can't forget about that, right, Ashley?
That's right.
Our friend Ashley Schuering from Confessions of a Grocery Addict is here, and she's going to share some tips for us, as she always does, on some money-saving tips that I know we can all use for those very days. Ashley, thanks so much for being here again.
Thanks for having me, Maria.
Sure.
So glad to be here.
Yes.
I think my major thing was just talking about Valentine's Day.
Yes.
So I worked in restaurants for a little over 20 years. And I have to tell you, Valentine's Day is one of those days that you want to stay home.
Definitely, yes.
The food and the service are never at their best. It's kind of like going out to the bars on New Year's Eve or Halloween.
Yes.
It'll be extra busy. They're going to have a lot of places will have prix menus, which means you don't really get nearly as much choice. You're often crammed in like sardines next to people that you don't really know.
Right.
And the seatings usually aren't all that well staggered. So they'll do like a seating at 6 and a seating at 8. So everybody gets seated all at once, which means it can take a while for your server to get over to you. Everything just kind of takes a long time. And so you're not going to get the best service. You're not necessarily going to get the best food experience. So my suggestion is either cook dinner at home, go out for Valentine's Day breakfast, brunch, or lunch, because those are a little bit less busy, or just change the date entirely, reschedule for the following Friday, or, another day in your,
Exactly. And I just want to tell you that what you said is absolutely correct because I've been doing, like this past week, I did some other interviews with like chefs and people that, have restaurants and things. And they told me the same exact thing that you said, that definitely not a good day of the year to go out to dinner. You're better off doing a home thing. And if people don't want to cook, they can. I mean, it is a little expensive to get the pre-prepared stuff in the stores, but it's probably still less expensive than going to a restaurant, right?
absolutely. And, there are some things that are just like kind of heat and eat situations.
Right.
That those are a good idea. Or if your place is open for lunch, maybe you can order to pick up lunch that you can refrigerate and reheat
For dinner.
later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great idea.
Um,
Yes.
and since it's going to be on a Friday anyway, the wine pairings, the beverage program is always where they're making their biggest margins.
Right.
And so, if you buy a bottle of wine at the store and buy your steaks at the grocery store, it doesn't have to be anything crazy fancy or complicated.
Right.
You'll just end up saving a lot of money, and you'll probably have a better time and, better experience overall.
Exactly. And better food, definitely. Probably so, because it's overcrowded and overpriced. It's an overcrowded and overpriced day, definitely.
And
Definitely.
it gets so loud in there. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm turning 40 this year, but going out and trying to like shout across the table to have dinner is difficult. So you get
Exactly.
to choose the music, you get to choose the lighting, the food, and most importantly, the company that you keep. So I definitely feel like cooking at home is the way to go, but just
Mhm.
remember that you don't have to go really gourmet. Some of the things that I like to do if you're looking for some cheats,
Uh-huh.
um, go to the grocery bakery department. You can get a cute little 2-person or 4-person cake, or, you can get some nice little petit fours that look really fancy and will probably cost you more than making them yourself. But, time is money too.
Exactly.
Um, and then there are places like Trader Joe's that have an excellent frozen aisle. So you can get all kinds of things that you can just bake, and they're really delicious and
Uh-huh.
easy.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then if you're looking to like actually make the food yourself, some of my favorite things for like fancy meals that aren't really expensive,
Uh-huh.
risotto.
Exactly.
I
Definitely.
mean, and it's so much easier than some people claim that it is. I mean, yes, there is standing there for 20 minutes stirring, but it's kind of meditative.
It is.
And there's also, oven baked risottos where
Right.
they figured out how to get around that.
Right.
But it's super inexpensive, very fancy feeling.
Mhm.
Um, Homemade pasta is another one of those things, and I'm sure that you have tons of content on how to do that, Maria.
Yes. But
Uh,
if people, not everybody wants to make the pasta, and it's so easy you can actually find homemade pasta now at the store if you
yes.
don't want it to, if you don't have the time, if it's a work day and you're coming home from work, you don't want to make it, you can actually buy homemade pasta. And if you're buying it from somebody that, specializes in it, if it's not a grocery store, if you tell them how many people you're having for dinner, if it's just two, they'll usually know how much pasta, you will need for two people, for just two people, or you can just get it at the grocery store.
And that's another thing. If you have like an Italian restaurant near you that you have a good relationship with,
Uh-huh.
call them today and say, hey, can I order to pick up X amount of fresh pasta and X amount, a quart of your whatever sauce you're doing that night?
Exactly.
Pre-order it. And that's something that, you're 10 days out, you have plenty of time for them to be able to cover that. And they'll be able to make a margin, but it won't be the same as if you're sitting down and you have to tip for service and all of those kinds of things.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
and then the other thing that I think is a really great option if you're going to be working all day,
Uh-huh.
bust out that slow cooker and do something like short ribs, something that feels really fancy, but you can really just throw it in there and let it cook all day and come home to something delicious.
Exactly. Yeah, those slow cookers or the Instapot, they're great
Yes.
for people that if you don't have a lot of time and you want to put something in there and then come home at the end of the day and voila, you have this great meal. But
And
they're
you can
all,
also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was just saying they're all great tips. Yes.
And then if you have time this weekend, you can also prep, freeze, and then defrost for Friday. So you've got a little bit of time to do that also.
Exactly. That's definitely a good idea to freeze. Yeah, make something over the weekend, freeze it, and then you'll just have it ready to go, so you don't have to worry about doing the cooking that night. It's just a warm up type of a thing.
And then the last thing is, dessert because Valentine's Day, why wouldn't you
Yes,
want to
why
get
wouldn't
after
you?
something? So one of the things that I see a lot of in stores that are really overpriced are chocolate covered strawberries
Strawberries.
because they're really easy to make at home. Um, and even if you're not experienced with chocolate tempering, if you go into the baking aisle, they have these things called chocolate melts.
Right.
And you just melt them in the microwave,
Mhm.
dip your clean, dry strawberries in there and set them on parchment to dry. You can
Exactly.
decorate them to look like little tuxedos. My cousin Jen makes all kinds of crazy ones that, look like footballs or turkeys or whatever for the holiday. So there's lots
Yeah.
of inspiration on
Oh, that's
Pinterest.
great. Yes.
Another one that's really inexpensive, surprisingly easy, is chocolate mousse.
Mhm.
But chocolate pudding is also really good, and you can make it with cornstarch. You don't have to deal with all of the eggs.
Exactly.
Um, and then also, I love Coeur la Creme, which is like a French cream cheese mousse. It's
Uh-huh.
basically just beat cream cheese with powdered sugar and then fold in freshly whipped cream with vanilla. And then you drain it like through cheesecloth.
Right.
And it turns into like this beautiful, firm mousse.
Uh-huh.
If you do it as a traditional Coeur la Creme, Coeur means heart, so it's a
Right.
heart of cream, and you
Uh-huh.
can get little things for it, but you can
Uh-huh.
also just do it in a round mesh sieve.
Uh-huh.
And then one of my favorite all time, like last minute, I came up with it when I was probably 22 years old. I had a thing of lemon curd in the pantry,
Uh-huh.
had some whipped cream, I had some frozen berries, and I had some graham crackers.
Right.
And I just folded the lemon curd into some freshly whipped cream, and then I layered it with the either the graham crackers or the ginger snaps and then some berries and then just keep layering it and it looks like this pretty little trifle in a wine glass and it's so easy.
That's great. All great. And it's I always say this whenever you have a holiday, a lot of times people think, "Oh, holiday, I'm going to try this really fancy dessert," and then it's just too complicated and you end up not enjoying the holiday. So I
Yep.
love those dessert ideas because they're simple. Even the other ideas like risotto it's really not complicated. So it's really important to keep it simple and the complicated stuff, try like on another day. And, when you just a Sunday, you just want to spend some time trying to cook a recipe, but you want
Yeah,
to,
because when you put all that pressure on yourself, it takes the fun out of it.
it does, it takes the fun out of the holiday and then you don't get to enjoy it. Everybody else does and you don't. And most of the time, if you're trying it and you're under pressure, it just doesn't come out correctly a lot of times. So
Yes.
yeah, it's best to keep it simple
And
and
then the last idea that I have, in
yes.
case you're like more of a cook and you have a friend that's more of a baker,
Uh-huh.
divide and conquer. You can make twice the amount of your entree, they can make twice the amount of their dessert, and you guys can just do a little flip flop at work or on your lunch break, and you'll be good to go.
That's a great idea. That's a fun idea. Definitely a nice idea. Great. Great. Ashley, thank you so much for all those tips and hope that helps everyone to have a great Valentine's Day. And Ashley, tell everyone where they can find you also.
Yes, I'm on. So I have my blog, Confessions of a Grocery Addict, and I also have a very active Pinterest page. So you can find me by searching for Confessions of a Grocery Addict on Pinterest too.
Great. All right, great. Thanks again, Ashley, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully next month.
Awesome. Yes, of course. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Join me on a mouth-watering journey through Italy with my Gourmand World Award-winning book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, which brings you authentic recipes, heartwarming stories, and a dash of Mediterranean magic. Whether you're a seasoned chef or a beginner, these books will awaken your inner food artist. Get ready to say ciao to delicious adventures. And you can find the Gourmand World award-winning book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, at Amazon.com on Kindle and on marialiberati.com and the publisher's website, artoflivingprimamedia.com. My special guest today is Amy Reiley. She's an author and she's an aphrodisiac specialist who we're having on because the topic is, Valentine's Day is coming up. So we all want to know types of foods maybe that are great to serve. And Amy, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So what's the name of your book? Or do you have more than one book?
Sure. I'm the author of 5 aphrodisiac cookbooks.
You are.
The most recent one, the most recent one is called Eat Cake Naked. It's an
Okay.
all dessert aphrodisiac cookbook.
Okay. So tell us like what food, what types of, people are always looking to put together a menu to cook at home. Actually, now that the food prices are rising, more and more people are doing this, they're kind of cooking at home, having dinners at home. So what type of a menu would you suggest for a romantic Valentine's Day?
Well, I love the idea of cooking at home for Valentine's Day because even without trying to watch your budget, it's one of the very busiest days of the year in restaurants. And so you think about having this romantic experience together, and yet you're sharing it with the masses if you go to a restaurant. So I definitely prefer saving that for a different occasion.
Mhm.
But when you're planning a romantic Valentine's Day at home, my biggest tip is to keep it simple because I know we're all tempted. Oh, this is a special occasion. Let's make something amazing or try something ambitious. But if the evening is supposed to be about romance and about you as a couple and enjoying each other, you don't want to be like sweating over the roast, right?
Exactly, exactly. Yes, and I tell people that too for holiday meals because people are
Mhm.
always like, some people that don't get to cook because they're so busy all year. It's all of a sudden it's like Christmas. Oh well, I'm going to try this absolutely fantastic recipe and it ends up either like being a flop or they just spend all day kind of and then you don't get to enjoy the holiday.
And then you're
So
completely exhausted by the time the meal is made. And
exactly,
yeah,
exactly. So I think the simplistic thing is really a good definitely a good tip. There are some really nice things you can cook that are simple but are kind of like special type of things also.
absolutely.
So what type of so what are we recommending for I guess like appetizers?
Well, my other best tip is to think about the foods the person you're cooking for likes.
Mhm,
So think about your partner, think about what they would really enjoy.
mhm.
I mean, I've had people who, so I have a website called Eat Something Sexy, and on there I have
Uh-huh.
a list of 88 different aphrodisiac foods. And, I go into why historically they're
Great.
aphrodisiac and all of that.
Yes.
But people will look at that list and they'll pick something off the list because they are like, well, this is an aphrodisiac, so this is what I need to make.
Uh-huh.
Oysters are a great example.
Uh-huh. Right.
Everyone has heard that oysters are an aphrodisiac. And they
Yes.
are, it's true.
Uh-huh.
And I love oysters and I think they're wonderful, but so many people don't. or
right.
are a little on the fence about it. So if you
Yes.
prepare a platter of oysters, you learn how to shuck them. You know, it's maybe a wasted effort. It may even be an insult.
Yes.
So yeah, think first about what
Exactly
your
about
partner
the
likes.
person.
And it can
Right.
be simplest thing. You
Uh-huh.
know, it can be cheese and crackers if that's what they really
Yes,
love.
exactly. That is the simple, that's really a simple, really nice thing to have. And who doesn't like cheese and crackers? Fresh fruit is good, I guess, too. So, and for
I
me,
also would
oh, go
say
ahead.
keep the
Yes.
foods light. Um,
Yes.
so if you are, so I like that you mentioned fruit. So if you are going to do something like cheese and crackers or cheese and
Uh-huh.
bread, adding in some fruit makes it a little bit lighter because cheese is obviously a very heavy, dense kind of
Yes.
food. It is, by the way, historically aphrodisiac, which is rather interesting.
Yes,
Um,
it is.
but you know, if you're having cheese, like mix it up with some other things for sure.
Uh-huh. Fruit, nuts, but nuts are heavy too, but still, I guess almost like a charcuterie board type of thing,
That
maybe.
would be lovely. Yes.
Yeah, 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 with all the little things on it.
And that's a nice thing because it's interactive. I always like
Right.
that, you know, for a romantic meal, something that's interactive where your hands brush while they touch each other, or you can prepare something for the other person or feed them even.
Yes,
So an
exactly.
interactive dish is really nice. Another thing that I love to suggest is making sushi together.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it won't end up, for most of us, it won't end up being restaurant quality sushi, but that's okay,
Uh-huh.
right? It's part of it
Yes,
is the
yes.
act of
It's
doing it
part
together.
of, exactly. It's just part of doing it together.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, definitely. So that, okay, so sushi. And what for a main course, what would you recommend?
Well, again, it depends on the kind of thing you like. I like to steer people toward fish if
Uh-huh.
you want a protein.
Right. Yes.
It tends to be lighter. It's also
Right.
historically fish is also considered aphrodisiac.
Uh-huh.
There are a lot of fish that you can find some fairly easy preparations. Poaching
Right.
salmon is always a good choice because you
Right.
don't have to worry as much about it getting overdone.
Exactly, exactly. How about since your book is sounds like it's on desserts, what are some great desserts to make?
Well, I have some great desserts in Eat Cake Naked. Actually, you can
Uh-huh.
find a lot of my favorite dessert. So I love dessert. As you can tell, I wrote a whole book of desserts. I have worked at one point as the editor on a all cake book. So I mean, I know my desserts. And
Yes,
if you go to eatsomething.sexy.com, we have a really lovely selection of dessert recipes.
right.
Some of my favorites, let's see. Um, I love making a chocolate avocado cake.
Mm-hmm. That sounds
It can
yum.
be made in advance using avocado, which is an aphrodisiac and also has some nutritional value.
Yes.
It helps keep the cake moist.
Oh, yes, of
That's one
course.
that I love.
Uh-huh.
Um, I have a chocolate truffle recipe, a homemade chocolate truffle recipe on
Uh-huh.
Eat Something Sexy. I have actually done that one with cooking classes, like couples cooking classes before, because that's another recipe that's fun to make together.
Uh-huh.
Or you can make them in advance, you can buy a little chocolate, you know, you can order your own chocolate box and present them as a homemade gift to a
Exactly.
partner. Yeah.
Yes, that's great. And who doesn't like chocolate? So chocolate is, I'm sure, chocolate is an aphrodisiac.
Of
So I
course.
guess it's always a good thing to have chocolate as the main ingredient for your dessert. Do you have any suggestions for like wines or sparkling wines or anything like that? Do you?
I mean, I do. I I started my career in the food business actually working in wine.
Oh,
So
there you go.
it's my first love.
Uh-huh.
And I always recommend sparkling wines first.
Uh-huh.
However, I mean, I know so many people who don't enjoy sparkling wine, so I'm
Right.
gonna say if it's not your thing, don't do it because I said it's like great
Right.
for romance.
Exactly. Exactly.
Pick what you like. And more than getting caught up in wine pairing or getting caught up in the idea of having a fancy wine,
Uh-huh.
um, pick something that you both like. A wine that's meaningful to the two of you. Maybe something, if you're married, maybe the wine you drank at your wedding
Uh-huh.
or wine that you had on your first date or something like that is always a great choice for a romantic occasion.
That's a great idea. Definitely a great idea to bring some more meaning to your Valentine's Day meal. So that's a great idea. I didn't realize that Valentine's Day was extremely busy, but extremely busy restaurant day. So, it definitely does. It is nicer to share it, just together than out at a restaurant with hundreds or thousands. So that sounds like
Right.
all sounds like a
I
great.
will say
Uh-huh.
but if you don't feel comfortable with cooking,
Right.
and even if you feel comfortable with cooking but don't want to do it for a special occasion,
Right.
there's no shame in takeout.
No.
But what I always recommend is make it special, plate it, like take it out of the cartons,
Good idea.
plate it, present it beautifully, make it feel special.
Yes. Uh-huh. Yeah, there are so many options now of takeout. So many stores have even like some of the upscale grocery stores have all these takeout things. So yeah, especially like if it's a work day and you're tired and you don't feel like cooking, then that's a great it's a great
Exactly.
way to still make a special meal, just get takeout, but plate it nicely. That doesn't take very long. So that's also a great idea as well.
No.
Definitely. Any
Yeah.
other
Yeah,
tips
you just
before
want
we
to
go?
do that extra thing to make it special. Yeah.
Exactly. Definitely. Any other tips before we go? We're almost out of time, but
It's really all about like thinking about the other person, connecting with the other person, putting away your technology. Even it's setting the mood, picking music that you both enjoy to play, all of these things, picking a menu that you both enjoy. It can be as simple, as you want, but it's
yes,
really thinking about what's going to help the two of you connect.
exactly. That's great. And then, yes, Amy, tell everybody where they can find you. I know you did mention a website, and we'll put this on the website at the blog at themarialiberati.show.com. But why don't you tell everybody where they can find you?
Sure. So go to eatsomething.sexy.com. And if you want to connect with me directly, sign up for my mailing list. Anyone who responds to any of my emails, I will write back. I've made some really great connections that way. I love hearing from people. And also when you sign up for my mailing list, I send you lots of really fun things. So
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much for being here and happy Valentine's Day. I'm sure you'll have a
happy
happy
Valentine's
Valentine's
Day.
Day also, and happy Valentine's Day to everyone out there. Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Maria Liberati Show, and thanks as always to my producer, Britton Roselle, and this week's special guests. And don't forget, if you're looking for that special Valentine's Day gift, you can go to getnamednecklace.com online and find a personalized gift that will make that special someone a happy Valentine's Day. And as always, you can find me at marialiberati.com. You can find info on some of our episodes here on the marialiberati.show.com blog. You can also sign up for the newsletter for the Maria Liberati Show there as well. And you can find me on Instagram at Maria Liberati, on Facebook at Chef Maria Liberati, on Pinterest at Maria Liberati, on X or Twitter at Maria Liberati, on Vimeo at Maria Liberati, our YouTube channel, which is just called The Maria Liberati Show. Did I mention Instagram? That's Maria Liberati. And you can find my Gourmand World award-winning book series, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, anywhere books are sold, but also on Amazon, on Barnes & Noble, on Kindle, on the publisher's website, artoflivingprimamedia.com, and anywhere books are sold. And if you can't find a copy of which one, because there's about 10 in the book series, if you can't find a copy, just send us a note at info@marialiberati.com and we'll make sure that you find a copy. And until next time, peace, love, and pasta.